Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Joey and Mike. We're back at it with another episode of Dogging It. What's up, Melina?
What's up, man? It only took us a few weeks, but we finally made it back, and I think it's a pretty good time because there's a little event coming up that's kind of important in the pool world. If you like the crown jewel, as I like to call it, the Mosconi Cup. So I'm excited, man. How about you, Joey?
Oh man, it's the biggest event, and I dogged it. First of all, it's been a couple weeks because I've been waiting for this pimple over here to go away, man. I popped it and it just exploded all over my face, and I'm like, I can't go live with this thing. But second of all, yeah, I dogged it. I really dogged it this time because I have probably the three busiest days of my year: Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I'm going to be sneaking glimpses of the Mosconi Cup this week, while I'm out and about kind of doing some other day job stuff. So I really dogged
Okay,
it.
Bills.
I'm living up to our name, dogging it. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. But I'm real excited. Yeah, it's getting almost that time, man. So we're 2 days away, and I just the anticipation, man. So, but I think we got a pretty good guest on today as well. We can't just have us two donkeys out here, pretending like we know what we talk about. So we got to bring in some credibility, and no one in my mind is more credible when it comes to the game of pool than my man Panozo. So
Hey,
let's let's bring him on.
hey, Mike Pinozzo, what's up? Oh, I can't
Oh,
hear
Mike
you.
can't hear us. We're already dogging it. Mike, try coming out and then back in again, Mike, and
Oh
we'll try
man.
to do it that way. We're already living up to the name of our show and dogging it.
Okay, we're dogging it.
Um, yeah, for sure. But we're gonna try to get Panozo on. We just had him on and we tested everything out, the audio and all that fun stuff. So it was good. Um, but if it was easy, then the name wouldn't quite go and
Yeah.
uh go and fit. So
Yeah. And guys, I see some people already commenting. Dominic Dunn, Raymond Linares. Thanks for commenting. Just let us know if you can hear us and see us okay. Obviously, we had a little bit of problem with Pinozo. We're gonna get him back in here, hopefully. And but yeah, let us know how everything sounds and looks. We're just gonna go through this week and kind of what we expect, some of the ideas and things we've been thinking on and chewing on as we get ready for this year's version of Mosconi Cup. So do you want to get started, you think, Mike? Start talking about a few
well,
things and
yeah, and in honor of the day, because there's been, I guess, some drama already leading up to it. I mean, as if we couldn't have enough, right? With some of the picks that have been coming on. There was a post today from Matchroom Pool in regards to the. First of all, that's why I'm rocking the gray, is to go and try to match the table. But yeah, we got a bunch of topics to go and discuss, and hopefully we can get Mike in here shortly, and then we can just jump on in. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun week of pool, man. It starts in 2 days. For those of you guys who don't know, you can, if you're in the U.S., you can check it out. And I think my man Joey's got a graphic somewhere on there.
is this it?
Um,
Yeah.
there you
You
go. So
took
that's gonna be a list. Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, this is the so I have I have the geography degree, right, Mike? That's why you said this. So
Exactly.
part of what I went to school for was to make maps. And so here we go. This is the map if you're in the United States, and it looks like Brazil, which interestingly, that's where my wife's from. Canada looks like you can get this through DAZN. And then you see the different graphics there. You can get all this on the Matchroom website and figure out how exactly you can watch the Mosconi Cup. I think we have Pinozo back. Let's see if we can get him in here. Hey, Mike, can you hear us this time?
I can. Can you hear me?
I
Yeah, and you know
can,
what?
buddy.
This was perfect. I know you set this up perfectly. The name of our little show now is called Dogging It, and we dogged it right off the bat. So thanks for helping us out there.
I don't know. I don't know what happened. And the other thing that audio was almost like it was on, slow mo, and I couldn't understand a word. So I don't know what happened to the audio on the on my phone, but so I just grabbed the iPad and what did I miss?
No, we were just telling people how they can catch the event. I have a graphic here, trying to figure out where it is, Mike. There's so many graphics you sent over to me. I want to show this one. Yeah, it's December 7th to the 10th. Ali Pally, the Mosconi Cup guys, get ready. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Mike Panozzo, you've probably forgotten more about the Mosconi Cups over the years than Melina, Mike, and I even know. So what are your just thoughts going into this event? Anything kind of resonate?
Well, it's always a special event. It's always, it's the event that people get the most excited for through the whole year. It's always gotten me excited. I have seen a lot of them, and they're always great. They're always entertaining, regardless of the score. You always have that nervous energy at the beginning. You always speculate on what could happen if this happens and if that happens, and that's the fun of it. I mean, that's what makes this such a special event. You start, guessing what players are going to do well, what players are new, which ones are going to be nervous, which ones have to carry the load. It's kind of the same scenario every year, but the stakes just seem a little higher these days.
Yeah, and you have the USA as a heavy favorite, Mike. Is that right?
I don't have it as a heavy favorite. It's such a weird event. I mean, the favorite tends to win more times than not, but it can be really close. It can be a blowout. The U.S. has blown out Europe in years where Europe had top players, and vice versa. It's a real momentum type of tournament. Guys can get down and the other guys just put their foot on their throat and just go for it, and that's the way it should be. At the end of the day, these are 10 great players playing races to 5. So I don't know how heavy a favorite someone can really be when you break it down, but Europe's got it. Europe is certainly a favorite. We'll just have to see how everybody plays.
What do you say, Melina, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, on paper, you can call him a favorite, but Panozzo hit it on the nose. It's a race to 5. So there's a few things that I don't like to go and gamble on a whole lot. And one of those is bar table pool, because bar table pool can sort of be the great equalizer in a lot of ways. But the other side of it is short race 9-ball, one or two little mistakes, and you're in a 4-0 hole. So it doesn't take much to go and kind of get stuck in, because they are short races, and the amount of pressure, the fans are going to be back. So that'll be exciting, but things can really go and just swing one way so rapidly. And I think that's part of the fun, is because you kind of see guys going dogged a little bit because of everything going on. But yeah, no, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be, Mike said it, there's 10 great players out there going and battling out. I know that everybody takes the event very seriously. And I really got a lot of respect for that. But we got a few questions in the chat, Joey. Someone's asking about the time. I think it's going to be around noon Central. The DAZN app, I have it. I'm sure both you guys have it. I buy it for the year, man. I watch snooker. I watch all the Matchroom pool events. So the $100 is kind of a steal. Plus they got boxing and there's a ton of other stuff on there if you guys ever get to check it out.
Yeah, they added the event last year, the CLP. They got the U.S. Open. There's plenty to watch if you get the $100 for the whole year. I think it's a huge bargain these days. I actually bought it and was paying monthly, and I just could never cancel it because there was always another event coming up. And then finally I switched it over to annual. So yeah, I think you're right about that, Mike. One of the things that kind of struck me going back to last year, I found that, U.S. lost a lot of the legs, right? And then we lost a bunch of hill matches. And I remember thinking, man, this could have been a lot closer. But then you sent me a graphic earlier, Mike, that I'm going to put up now that shows that you take those 2 years the U.S. won and you look back for close matches before that, and you don't find any unless you go way back to 2012. So it was a bunch of routes in there, 11-4, 11-3, 11-7, 11-5. Europe was just completely dominating until the U.S. in 2018 and 2019. And then boom, right back in 2020, 11-3 Europe. And I think if you kind of follow the chatter online as we do and what people think, a lot of people are kind of predicting a similar outcome this year with Europe taking a sizable lead in this event and winning by quite a few games. I tend to think it's going to be a little bit closer this year, but we'll get to the predictions at the end. What do you guys think about the announcement about the commentators? I'm curious your thoughts on this, Mike Panozzo. We got Niels Feyen and Kelly Fisher going to be in the booth. What do you think about that?
New people in the booth to me is always good. I'm really glad that they're not using, current captains and vice captains in the booth. I thought that was a terrible idea. I understood why they did it. I mean, Jeremy, does a phenomenal job. Alex, Carl, they all do great jobs. There's, some of the best announcers there are as far as, explaining the game, which is why they've been tabbed as captains, because they have that kind of knowledge and that kind of way of understanding the game, being able to explain it. So it didn't surprise me that they wanted to lean on those guys. But once they get into the tournament with their teams, you keep them out of the commentary booth. So I'm glad that they went away from the traditional guys to use new people. Niels, very analytical player. He's played in a lot of Mosconi Cups. He's going to be able to really share his experiences in terms of, the nerves, how you get through wrecks, what things you try to avoid doing. He's going to bring a lot of experience to the commentating box, and he's a very, he's an educator. He's a coach type of player. I mean, he's that into the game, so he's great. And Kelly's, Kelly's terrific. It's good, to have a Brit in the booth when you have, the Sky audience watching. So they'll be interested in what she has to say. And she's another one who's a very smart player and has been through a lot. So I think she'll bring a lot to the equation.
Yeah, there's some comments in the chat. Somebody thinks that the commentators might be a little biased, because being from Europe. But curious your thoughts, Melina, Mike.
Yeah, I think, kind of piggybacking what Panozzo was saying, I think what you gain in coaching, you lose from the booth, because Laylee and Carl and Jeremy are three of the best commentators for my money. And Jeremy is one of these guys where he really does put his bias at the door. He's not one of these homers whenever he's in the booth, and I got a lot of respect for that. Whereas Carl, when he's doing the coaching stuff, he's very like rah, 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 Europe kind of guy. But like aside from that, like his commentary is fantastic and he's got a lot of charisma. But Neil's done a really good job of promoting himself over the last year, starting with his YouTube channel. And I just think he's going to do fantastic in there. Kelly, I mean, what can't you say about her as far as what she's accomplished? She's a very relevant player. She's still competing very well, and not just in women's events, but in open events and on the matchroom stage. So I think it'll be good. But I'm trying to think like who we could have as far as Americans. Like there's nobody on Team USA that I would really want to go and hear in the booth personally besides Jeremy. There's a lot of Americans like a Josh Roberts that I would love to go and hear in there, but nobody like on that team per se. Like someone like, and you can go down the list when it comes to the Europeans. I think Albin does a pretty good job, but he doesn't have a whole lot of personality. Clenny can be kind of bland at times, but no, I think they'll do great, and it'll have a really good balance, and I hope it'll be fun, more importantly.
Yeah, I think Niels is going to do an awesome job. Same with Kelly. One thing, and a lot of people maybe tuned into my podcast with Kelly Fisher and probably thought by the way that podcast went that I had known her for 15 years. The fact is I met her that day on the call. And I mean, she's just such a remarkable person that by the time you ever meet somebody and after an exchange, a half hour or 45 minutes, you're done talking to that person. And you're just like, wow, I feel like I just connected with that person. I knew my whole life. She's just a very kind-hearted, awesome person. And so, and obviously an incredible player. So I can't wait to hear her insights. One thing I'm really kind of intrigued about hearing your thoughts on, let's start with you this time, Melina. Let's talk about these pockets.
It seems to be the drama of the day, starting with my man right below me on the screen in Panozzo. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think there's been everyone's got a lot of opinions. You'll have old school guys that are going to go and say, well, you shouldn't have gone and changed this, or it should be this, or it should be that. Um, Part of 9-ball pool that can be frustrating for me is how it can be a little boring. And one way to go and change that is to make every shot go and count. I can remember times during events in this year where they had 4-inch pockets, because they have had it already, where routine outs were not so routine. Balls that were automatic were not automatically in the hole. They were jawed up, they were rattled. It really just intensifies the pressure and really makes you, as someone sitting your butt on the couch or on your phone or what have you, it really makes you pay attention to everything, because you cannot take anything for granted. And it'll really, I don't want to say embarrass you as a player, but it'll really make you like bear down and go and focus. I know Emily kind of took a little bit of a flack from people online, but I like the idea of them making 4-inch the new standard. And I would like it if we can stop with all the drama and just have it be throughout all their events, right? Make it not just be a Masters thing, but make it an every Matchroom pool event thing. So, but I'm excited to hear this guy's opinion, because he was full of opinions earlier today. So, Mike, what say you, Mike?
I try to keep my opinions to myself.
Didn't look like it.
No,
Yeah.
listen, I don't mind. My argument was this: it wasn't as much against 4-inch packets, is that like I said online, I think that this is the fourth straight year where the packets has been a different size. So it's, okay, figure it out. Let's do something. It was in
Right.
18s, the Europeans fans complained that it was buckets, and so they made it tighter. And in 19, the U.S. still won,
Wow.
and then they blamed it on not having a vice captain. And then
Time out, Mike. I was hearing that it was a lot of certain Captain Americas of Team USA that were going and politicking for bigger pockets in order to give USA an edge over getting waxed over the previous, let's say, 7 years. That's what I heard a lot of. That it was, well, if you want us to go and have a chance, then put the one on the spot and make it, whatever it was, 5-inch pockets or 4.5-inch pockets.
That may have been the case. That may have been the case in 18.
Yeah.
When they got, when they Matchroom, went out of its way on a lot of different levels to give U.S. not an edge, but to make them as competitive as they could possibly
Right.
be,
Right.
from treating them right and getting them their own apartment to stay in and all that kind of stuff. So that all tied in. That was 18. Then they changed it and they tightened it up in 19 because everybody complained the packets are buckets, and the U.S. won in 19. But and again, I don't really care. They're all shooting at the same packets. So yeah, it's just that it changed. Then someone cries and they change it the next year to something else. Then someone cries and they change it the next year to something else. And so they're listening to people, but you can't
Right.
jump and switch and move every time someone moans and whines. Now, as far as 4 inches over 4.25, over 4.5, over 5.5, I don't really care. I think that there is a point where it can get too small. You've got fast tables, short races, 2,000 fans, a lot of pressure. You don't want to make these guys look silly either. And one of my points, and I had talked to Shane about this, and he said, yes, and this had nothing to do with this event. This was, 6 months ago for no reason at all. And he was saying, 4.25 is a competitive packet. So you get into 4 and anything smaller than that, and now the way we play the game is a little bit different. As far as using a little bit more of the pocket to move the cue ball around, to create more shots, to do this, to do that. He said, I think 4.25 is an honest size, and it still allows us to play pool. And my argument is, go ahead and make it 3 3.75, and then you basically have snooker. Which is everybody's got to hit the center of the pocket. And so that takes a lot of the other parts of the game away from the rest of the table. I don't want to see that happen. 9-ball's a great game. I love seeing these guys really, swing the cue ball around for shape and get out of, tricky situations. End of the day, they can have the pockets. I don't really care what size they are. Just think it all through. Let's try to make a decision. They're talking about it being standardized. So if it's standardized, I would assume, Mike, that means they're going to be in all Matchroom events this way. But that's Matchroom standardized. I don't see the rest of the professional pool industry all of a sudden having 4-inch pockets for all their tables. I just don't see it happening.
Let me play a little devil's advocate here. So I know, you know, with the Mosconi Cup, it's about the players, it's about, you know, fans of pool, but it's also our real one opportunity, our golden opportunity to bring people in that don't normally watch pool.
Correct.
Last year, I showed it to my wife. It's the first time she ever watched it. And I mean, she couldn't take her eyes off it. She was watching every minute of every match. And, you know, suppose these professional caliber players have a hard time running out a rack, you know, or just seem to be dogging it a little bit because the pockets are so tight. I mean, does that take away from that aspect of it, of really trying to draw people in and making it more of a spectator sport?
I think that's, you know, that's that fine line between, yeah, you want to draw in more fans and make it exciting, and between having buckets. So you find that middle ground. Um, and you know, just for my personal taste, you know, going to four and hammering four on everybody's throat is trying too hard.
Yeah.
So to me, 4 1/4 would have been just fine. Would have appeased, probably would have still seen some good runouts. You can try to attract some of the people who are, you know, the non-watchers who are tuning in, because if they tune in, they see guys playing three cushion for a half an hour, they're just not going to stick with it. So, so yeah, I mean, there's that fine line in there, and I think that they're, you know, I'll give them credit. They're trying to find where that line is, and then
Right.
establish it and go. But you know, man, we've been at this for a long time. You think by now someone's got it figured out.
I saw Jim Telfer was giving a hard time to Tyler Steyer because Tyler talked about a high run that he had on 4 1/8 inch pockets. And he's like, what size pockets again? Because Tyler kept saying 4 1/8, 4 1/8. But if you think about it, if his table's worn in pretty good, his 4 1/8 might play just like a 4 inch with new cloth, which they're going to have at this event. You know, it's going to play, especially the first day, maybe the first 2 days, it's going to play more like a 4 1/8 probably. So I wonder if that's going to help Tyler if he's going to go into it with a lot of confidence as he's been practicing kind of in that environment. What do you think, Mike? I guess I have to specify. What do you think, Malik?
I think, yeah, when it comes to Tyler, I think if he can play loose, they got a real good shot. And I think he's kind of the wild card because for me, I don't think he played all that well in the last Mosconi Cup that he was in. But I think that Chris will be all right because Chris played all right last year, and I know we're going from no fans over to fans, so you know it'll be different. But it's USA only needs a couple of things to kind of go and happen to where they're in it, and I think as a fan, if you're a fan of Team USA, that's all you really want is for them to, you know, stay in it. Don't go and get buried after, you know, middle of day two. But no, I think that over the last 5 years, and this has kind of been the transition from the Barry Hearn area. I think that they're trying to find that sweet spot, and they're taking not just feedback from players, they're taking feedback from fans. They're watching, I'm sure, analytics when it comes to people that are watching. While I agree with you, Pinozo, as far as not wanting to watch guys go and play three cushion, that drama of a miss, that drama of a jump shot that you'll go and get in a tactical battle when it comes to 4 inch pockets, I think will be there. But after a while, like it kind of became an afterthought during the Masters because it was kind of like they got adjusted very, very well, and they're pool players. They know how to pocket balls. So I expect a lot of the same. Obviously, Team Europe has, you know, 5 number ones, you know, where Team USA, I don't think they do. So maybe they might go and struggle. But it'll be exciting. And I hope that in the grand scheme of things, this whole debate of, you know, complaining about 4 inch pockets or 4 1/4 will just be that, you know, an afterthought. And let's say 3 years from now, where it will just be the norm, you know. And I agree. You know, I was talking with Cleary earlier, and then seeing your comments. It's like everybody just wants to be one thing and one thing going forward. And I think that hopefully they found it, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the other thing that kind of came up and I think was being debated pretty hotly. First of all, I got to say that I think this table is gorgeous. I really do. I think it's a beautiful table. But what about the cloth, the gray cloth? What do you think about that, Mike Pinozo?
It's kind of a gray area for me. I think that, you know, it's not the end of the world. I mean, you know, they're trying different things. They're catering to a sponsor or whatever the case is. It's okay. My comment kind of, half jokingly was, I think pool will be taken, I'll know that it's taken seriously when, or it won't be taken seriously until snooker or carom billiards uses gray cloth in a championship tournament. If you can tell me the snooker, they could throw that at the snooker players for a professional championship tournament, and the snooker players wouldn't pitch a bitch, I think you're wrong. I think they would never be able to fly that one up the flagpole. Now, with pool, I understand they're reaching harder. They're trying to make pool interesting for people. They're trying to get more viewers. They're trying to help, sponsors sell product. They're trying to do all that stuff. And pool's not snooker, so it's got to come up with more creative ways to find its way into people's consciousness. I'm all for that. I don't think, the gray cloth is going to throw the players off any more than the purple 5 ball did.
Oh God!
Or whatever, whenever
that thing is brutal. You want to talk about brutal? In my mind, I'm like, why is he getting shape on that ball? And then it takes me like half a day to be like, oh.
They are going to use those balls, right? They use the Airman Black in all their events.
They kept waiting for someone to shoot the wrong ball, which never happened. I mean, these guys are professional players, and it can be gray cloth, it could be pink cloth. I've seen players in the old days when a televised tournament, they had an emblem on the center of the table. So, you were sliding over that with the balls. They shoot, they find their way through it, they play the game. The gray cloth, not a huge fan, but it's certainly not the end of the world. I just think it's funny that they could take a sport like pool and just say, okay, we're going to make you play on stripes and solids cloth and plaid, and you just have to go do it.
Molina?
I mean, come on, Mike. You got clay at the French. You got grass at Wimbledon. You got blue hard courts. You when you go to golf, you play on opposite ends of the world. At different times, different conditions. And I'm not just saying it because of my man Damien's 3-tone jam up shirt that I'm wearing. That's purely just a coincidence. But no, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal personally. It's amazing me the amount of messages I got. Like, are they seriously gonna have gray cloth? Like, I don't really hold on. I don't really see a big deal personally. If it matches the aesthetic of the area of how they got it designed out there at Ali Pally, then I'm all for it. Make it look sharp, make it look fly, and make the players look good, man. I'm all with it. But I really think it's just something to go and talk about. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I agree with Joey, and that table is just beautiful. I mean, it really looks it looks just class.
Yeah. I'm actually about to get a new table. I just sold my house, so I'm renting this house that I live in, that I just sold for a couple months, and I'm moving into a new house, and I'm considering getting one of those. And when I saw that one, I was like, wow, that's gorgeous. I wish I could have that. So it's a beautiful table. But, in terms of the gray cloth, the thought that I have, I agree with Panozzo. I don't think it's going to affect the players at all. They're professionals. They could play on, purple cloth. They're still going to pocket balls. They're still going to play well. Yep. I think it will be an adjustment for the viewer, though, and just getting used to seeing it. And who knows? It might become the standard because, why is blue the standard right now? Or why was green historically the standard? Maybe gray, maybe that's the signature of Matchroom now, that every time you tune into something on a stream and you see it, or something on YouTube and you see it's got that gray cloth, you're like, oh, this is a Matchroom event. Which one's this? And it's kind of like their staple.
I don't remember whenever blue became a thing, but like, I love the blue. It's nothing against the blue, but like, if I were to see them go back to a green, I'd be like, I'm sure more of a traditionalist may go and love it. I think it's just the progression of the sport. What do you say?
A good friend of mine, hold on real quick, Panozzo, sorry to cut you off. A good friend of mine, though, we used to play on the Planet Pool Tour together, Andy Lincoln, and it was 9-ball rack your own. And so we all knew how to make that corner ball. And it was green cloth, most of the tables. It was before like the Diamond Revolution and all the blue tournament cloth came in. And Andy would say, I rack the 6-ball as the corner ball because I have the hardest time with contrast between the green 6 and the green cloth. So I rack it as that corner ball. So I make it on the break every time. And I was like, man, that was a nice little hack, because you never had to worry about making the 6-ball, And when he said that, I was like, yeah, I miss the 6-ball a lot too. I miss a lot of balls, but hey, go ahead, Panoso. Sorry.
No, I think that, people talk about, is it better for TV? Is it better for this? I got to believe this was purely a Kloss sponsor driven idea.
Probably so.
So there's not a lot of scientific, they didn't run this through color labs and whatever to see what's best for TV. So,
Okay.
And that's fine too. I don't have a problem with it. Again, it's just, it's going to be great Kloss, so they'll just have to deal with it, and it'll be fine. They'll find their way through it.
So we've had a ton of comments so far, and Earl's name has come up in probably 15 comments. Like, Earl will have something to say about the pockets. He wants them tighter. Or Earl will say something about the cloth. We haven't really had a chance, Melina, you and I, to talk too much about Earl being in this event. And Mike, I know you've been on other podcasts talking about it, but let's just talk about it for a minute. What are you guys' thoughts on having Earl Strickland in this event this year?
Come on, Panoso.
It's he's the story. He's the whole story this year, from top to bottom. He will be the story at the press conference, and he will be the story on the first day. And when all's done in the wash and they're trying to sort through the, all the clothes, it'll still be all about Earl. So, it was a really interesting, kind of wild selection out of the blue, and the more you thought about it in terms of Shane's rationalization that, listen, Earl's playing a lot this year. He still plays great. He still hits him out. He's got the experience. And, is there a big difference between Earl on the team and one of the players who didn't make the team? Or Earl over Chris, or Earl over Tyler, or however you want to cut it. And when you get down to it, that's the depth of the U.S. pool right now. There isn't a really big difference. So from the standpoint of how is it going to affect the team and how is it going to affect the tournament, that's a little more of a wild card. But, give the guy credit. He's really, I've seen the interviews. I watched him at the International. He's really focused and really determined to play well, and determined to not let everybody shark him. And he's 60 years old. And in case anybody doesn't know, he does a lot of sit-ups. And so, he's a playing marvel at this point. And so I think that's cool in and of itself. And I like what Alex Lely said if you don't think Earl's the show, they made a video about everybody on both teams talking about Earl. Okay, so Earl's the show.
And they did.
He's the story. He's the story. Yeah. And in that, Alex, I thought he said something really cool. He said, listen, we're going to respect Earl. I hope the fans respect Earl, and I hope Earl respects the fans in the arena. Yeah. And if all that happens, it'll be one of the coolest stories of the year, win or lose.
Yeah. What do you say, Melina?
It's not his fault. He's as exciting as anybody at the top of the game to go and watch. Go anywhere the man is at, and there's going to be a crowd there to go and watch. I guarantee you, once this is over, go back and look at the numbers whenever he's playing. It's going to be spiking. People want to see Earl Strickland go and play pool. Whether you got an opinion about it, whether he should or shouldn't be on there, you're going to watch. And if you're not going to watch, you should. But I guarantee you more people are going to be tuning in to go and watch him play. What Mike has said is 1,000% right. The difference between the American standard of pool talent is not a whole lot. So I think Earl can still go and play 9-ball pool. Earl's not going to be as, efficient with the jump cue as, let's say, someone younger, right? And you can go and pick an American player that maybe is great with the jump cue to go and compare it to. But the guy's going to go and break the balls hard. He can still go run out. Listen, Team Poland's got a lot of great guys, and I think he just beat Conrad in a tournament at the International, if I'm not mistaken, on the loser side. Either that or it was like really close, but he gave him a run, if anything else. But it's like the guy can still go and play with any player on earth when it comes to 9-ball. He's not going to get there on 10-ball, but on 9-ball he can, and it's going to be a race to 5. And I tell you what, we talked about Tyler and Chris, but man, if they can get him going those guys are going to feed off of an Earl win. Those guys are going to feel a lot of like energy, and it may go and springboard something pretty special. And this is what I love about sport, man, is that sometimes you just have these storylines where it's just kind of like a perfect storm of things that go and happen, and you never know until after it's done. But man, if Earl can go and get a couple of wins together, like I don't know about you, Panoza's been to a ton of Mosconi Cups. I've never been. I hope he does good simply because I want to go see him in Vegas next year. You know, so for that reason alone, I want to go and have him be successful.
There's no other player that could have been selected that would have made such a splash in terms of people watching. I think if you think about it, all his fans will watch. All his critics will probably watch. It's kind of like what they used to say about Howard Stern. The people who hated him watched because they wanted to hear what he was going to say next, you know? And I think it's going to be almost like the people who watch the Super Bowl. You're going to have that faction of people. They only watch the Super Bowl for the commercials, right? They're going to only watch the Mosconi Cup for the interviews and kind of see what Earl's saying in between. But it's going to be huge. And I'm really excited for it. And like a lot of people are commenting in the comments, if he comes out and he controls his emotions and he plays well, and you said it too, Melina, it's going to be a shot in the arm for the United States. And it's going to give him some unexpected momentum, I think.
I hope he doesn't control his emotions. I hope he's every bit of Earl that I saw in South Dakota last year when nobody on earth was there, and he's just going on tilt in someone's basement, just being the Earl Strickland that I've seen on TV without a camera in his face, and it was everything that I dreamed of. I hope Earl is like that, you know, in 2 days. And yeah, man, he's that kind of player who can go and move the needle. And I mean, I'm going to ask you, Panoza, what would the story have been if he's not there? Americans are getting sent to get slaughtered again for a second year in a row?
Yeah, no doubt about it. That would have been, there would not have been much of a storyline other than, you know, can we get to a fourth day, major win? And so the storyline completely changes with Earl. And it gives people things to talk about. You know, we were talking about with the clock. It just gave people something to talk about. Well, when you get down to it, that's what Matchroom wants out of all these events. Anyway, get people to talk, get people to be interested, get people to watch, get people to comment, get people's opinions. Earl's certainly going to do that. The one thing different between watching Earl go full tilt to me is that in an open tournament, fine. Team tournament, you need a team player, so he's got to keep his tilt somewhere in the same zip code as his teammates, because it can affect them adversely, and I've seen that happen in the past. So I just don't want that to happen, and I think that, you know, the players, they're going to be conscious of that going into this, and they're going to be thinking that through. And Earl has, you know, you can tell by his comments. He said, I'm not going to come down on my teammates this year. He's said that. So he's conscious that that's an issue, a potential issue. So if he can, you know, play well, if he, you know, from a scoreboard standpoint, if he can win 2 points, it's more they've gotten out of number 3 spot the last 3 years. And if he can, you know, give a boost to his team by playing well in a match and upsetting somebody, yeah, that go a long way to the next 2 or 3 guys to play after him.
You had an interesting comment in calling him number 3, and I would call him number 3 on that team right now, because I just don't think that I don't think Chris and Tyler have like pulled away from him enough to go and be number 3. But is that where you would put him at, Mike?
Yeah, number 3. I think he's as far as what they're banking on, as far as who they're going to set him up against. Yeah, I'm thinking number 3.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about Earl and kind of what he's going to mean to Team USA. I have a question for you guys here, and we'll start with Melina. Mike, who is the weak link on this team?
Boy, it's funny. I remember it was maybe like a year or 2 ago, maybe. I think it was a year ago. And I remember saying, yeah, I mean, out of all the players, and you really start nitpicking. So I just want to preface it by saying that. But I was like, Albin's kind of the weak link, you know, on Team Europe. And then after the Mosconi Cup, of course, he goes on to win the CLP. He goes on to win a world championship. He goes on to win the international. He goes on to win everything on earth for the last 12 months.
Great call.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'm made to go and answer this question. Let me tell you.
He's the handicapper.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't know. For me, I think Fedor number 6, and I think Niels was number 7. When David got announced, that was kind of the scratcher. Or no, I take that back, because I would actually put Max and then Fedor and Niels. Anyway, I guess I would put David, because I mean, they go off of these points, but I don't know where David kind of arrived for me, if he's arrived for me. I think Ruiz has been a better Spaniard, in my opinion, over the last 3 years at least. For my money, I think he's been a top European. I think he's close to, if not at the top of the Euro Tour points list right now. But it's hard to go and say that the guy who wins every other World Pool Masters is a weak link. I mean, and I look like a fool saying it, but I guess that's where I would go and put him at. Clenty was kind of an afterthought last year, but oh, by the way, the guy doesn't play anything in the one event he does play in. He goes and wins a world title, and the second event he plays in, he snaps off the Predator event in Austria. So I guess he's a weak link, right? Jason really hasn't done anything, since the international, but he was last year's MVP, and he plays in big moments, and the crowd doesn't bother him. Pressure doesn't bother him. Like we said, Albin wins everything, from World Cup of Pool to every other Matchroom event. And then you got, oh, by the way, Josh Filler, who is not in COVID stroke anymore. He's pretty much pocketing everything. So I don't know. I guess David, for my money, maybe Jason, you can go and argue. But they would be number 2 on Team USA.
What do you say, Mike?
I'll go with the first guy who corner pocket spits his ball back out in the crucial part of the match. That could stick to your head for a while. So, I mean, the guy who's the shakiest on the first day. Last year Federer was pretty shaky on the first day, and thankfully they were up like 7-2. By the next time he shot, and then it was,
he's free rolling, he's free stroking, because there's no heat on him.
Free stroking after that. So if you can get, if you can keep the scores close, then I would say the first guy that stumbles in a match that he's supposed to win, it's, you don't get that many shots when you get down to it, especially if you're 3, 4, or 5 on these teams. So, when you blow a match you should have won, or you miss an easy shot and you end up losing, and then you have to wait another 3/4 of a day, and that day before you play again. It's hard to get in a short race, the 5 alternate break. It's hard to get back in stroke when you're feeling a little bit shaky. So it could be anybody. David, he hasn't played in that many Mosconi Cups, but the last time he played, he was solid, and he goes in there with no expectations, no weight on his shoulders. That's got to help him a lot, right? Because he's not being asked to carry the load. So I think it's more likely to be someone who is expected to carry the load, who stumbles out of the gate. Whether it's Jason, whether it's Filler, whether it's Kachi, someone you're expecting not to falter. If they falter early, then little doubt creeps in their head if the score is close, and you just take your chances from there.
I got a little bit different take, and I'm going to go with David too. First of all, he's an amazing player. I'm actually a huge fan. But when I think about it, the team last year, it's intact with that exception, right? David instead of Fedor. And that I could provide just enough pressure to make David uncomfortable when he gets out there and plays, right? So he let's say he drops a couple points and Europe is up against it. Well, the rumblings of should have had Fedor, could be in the back of his mind. And I think that's, if you're looking for one spot on Team Europe that could be a chink in the armor, that's it. But like Mike said, like Melina said, that's really nitpicking, right? Because that team is unbelievable. But hey, Melina, when are they going to announce the fans' choice? When does that get announced?
So I think after day one, you will have a fans vote, which will be the singles, which should be the start of day two, if I'm not mistaken, right, Panozo? Or actually, I think the vote's
Yeah.
actually open right now. I could be wrong, but um, anyway, the fans' choice for singles will be at the beginning of day two. So and then there's also throwing in another curveball, which at the end of day three will be a fans' choice. When it comes to doubles. We talked about this on Cue It Up, but yeah, I fully expect Earl to be a part of one, if not both of them, for Team USA. And then, yeah, pick your poison when it
Well,
comes to.
what would be your fans' choice, Melina Mike, for singles and doubles, and then we'll ask Mike Panozzo.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how you look at it, I guess if I'm looking at it from what I want to see, uh, I want to see Earl Strickland go and play against Josh Filler. I want to see an exciting style. I want to see guys who pocket balls very well, who don't overthink it, who are just going to play loose and free and are very much capable. A kind of a new school versus old school, a different generational player, you know. And yeah, that for me would be my singles. Um, Panozzo said it. Earl's the show. Earl's gonna be the show. Earl's what everybody wants to go and see. I'd be shocked if it's Shane this year, but if it's gonna be anyone else, I guess it will be Shane. But people want to go and see the man play. Period. What say you, Mike?
I say I think Earl all day. I mean, most of the votes come from the Europeans. They get all into this stuff more than Americans do. So, I would say that it's going to be Earl probably against Jason in singles. And then I would say Earl and Shane guaranteed for the doubles match.
Yeah.
And who would fans like to see him against? If they're late for lunch and they want to get out of there early, they're going to go Sean Filler. And between Shaw Filler and Earl, Shane's going to be the slowest guy in the group. And so that's who I would probably like to. I would enjoy watching the most, and I'd be surprised if that's not where they end up.
Mike, do you think, well, let me ask you this. Did you ever think they would go and say, Shane and Earl are going to play a Mosconi Cup together again?
I never thought they'd say Earl was going to play in a Mosconi Cup again after 13, regardless. And now, add to that the fact that he's 60. Never saw this coming. And as far as you seeing him next year in Vegas, he's going to have to be MVP this year for that to happen. That would be my guess. But
you think?
Yeah.
I don't know. They got to go and sell seats too. And I don't think that. I mean, obviously, I'm a little bit biased who I go and want to have on Team USA, but and they got to go and sell seats, man, too. And people would show up to go and watch Earl go and play. But I don't like. I know this has kind of been like a touchy subject for you, Mike, but let's say Team USA gets waxed again, 11-2. And then let's say they get waxed again, 11-3. Are we going to have a Mosconi Cup with Team USA in 2 years, 3 years?
Of course. I think because, listen, they've been before 18, they'd gotten whacked 8 years in a row.
But it's different though, Mike. It's the Emily era now. It's a results now kind of.
You're talking about selling. You got to sell seats, right? For all those years they were getting whacked up to 18. Every year they sold 500 more seats than the year before. Every year it kept going up 500. It kept going up 500. It keeps going up 500. If 2 years from now 75 fans buy tickets because the U.S. is getting creamed 11-0, okay, maybe you got a decision to make, but it's going to be made more on that than it's going to be made by the disparity in score.
Yeah,
to me,
I agree.
These are event promoters. It's a decision. It's a business decision.
Yeah, look, I grew up.
Never been more successful than it is now.
Yeah, I grew up in Baltimore. I was an Oriole fan. Hated the Yankees, right? And every year the Yankees would beat us, right? But they always sold out. Everybody wanted to take a shot at the Yankees, wanted to beat them. And then that one year when we got to the playoffs and the kid reached over the fence and stole a home run ball. I don't know if you remember that, Panozzo.
Oh, broke
my heart, man.
His name was...
he was on David Letterman and everything.
Yeah. I used to remember his name. I can't remember what it is.
I don't know. But, I think, this year with the fans' choice, I can't recall a time where it was more definitive as to who everybody wants to see. I think we could probably, if we were making wagering odds on this, I think it would be like a 1-9 favorite that Earl would be in the fans' choice match, right? And a 1-9 favorite that it would be Earl and Shane in the doubles, right? I mean, do you guys ever remember it being so overwhelming like this?
No, I mean,
well, Earl just moves the needle unlike any other. Like, he's one of the few guys in the sport that can go and do that. I think, because people on both sides want to go.
Jeffrey
Mayer want to go.
Jeffrey Mayer, Robert Carlton, thank you. Jeffrey Mayer, that little punk.
No, but Earl's just that he's that dynamic, man, and people want to. And you know what? Like, listen, this could have repercussions for other things, because let's say they do halfway decent, and let's say they're competitive, and let's say that a Shane and Earl go and give people hell. Well, you mark my words, you're going to see Shane and Earl for the World Cup of Pool. I mean,
they did that a couple years ago.
I love Sky, but he'll be back though. I mean, if he can go and play 9-ball pool on that stage, because I just got a feeling. I think people are going to tune in to go and watch the man play. I do, and I can't wait. I mean, it's a couple days away, but I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm excited too. We're talking pockets, we're talking gray cloth, we're talking all this stuff. And, at times it might seem like, Matchroom, we give them a hard time a little bit occasionally, but let's look at this, $225,000 in payouts. I mean, the folks watching in the stream, do you guys realize this is how much money gets paid out? I actually did the math today. I was adding it up just to make sure that's right. I mean, that's almost $250,000 for this event. I mean, winning this event for some of the young guys on the U.S. team, I mean, that money is significant, $30,000. Where else are you going to cash for that type of money in an event, especially a team event? Nowhere. What are your thoughts on that, Melina?
Yeah, I love seeing the progression over the years. I guess that's one thing where I can kind of put my foot in my mouth with my last question, is because, seats have been sold, and then now we've seen the prize fund go and increase quite a bit. And I think that if there's success, it'll continue to. But I mean, USA's got to maintain relevancy. And I know it's not like, well, I mean, people are going to have opinions, but I don't think it's the best five. And I don't think any of you guys think it's the best five that the Americans can go and put out there for a number of reasons. But listen, you got a guaranteed $15,000 in a tough year. Like, that's awesome. And you got a shot at 30 if you're the Americans. And for the Europeans, you don't want to be that team with expectations to lose again, because they're going in there with like anything other than a victory. They're like, for the Americans, if it's close, okay, there's a moral victory. Well, we're going to give them hell next year with hopefully a better team or whatever. But Europe, there are no moral victories. You got to go and win, and and win convincingly. So,
yeah, what about the captains? What happens with the captains? They get taken care of? Just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know the numbers, but yeah, they got to get paid though, for sure.
Yeah, they get paid.
Okay.
You know what? I got to tell you, Joey, real quick. I had to jump on this iPad, and it looks like it's running out of gas. If I jump off, I'm going to try to jump back on with my phone, right?
Okay. Right, yeah, we're winding down, so no worries.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Yeah,
let's take a look at. Yeah, and if you have to jump off and jump back on, that's okay, Penozo. And just to let everybody know, we're kind of winding down here. We just wanted to give you guys a preview of this week's Mosconi Cup and just some of our thoughts leading into it. And Melina, Mike, and I are going to be going live probably every night. I'll be on the road, but that doesn't stop us. As long as we have internet, we're good to go. So just a quick look at what day one is going to look like here. We got the team match, right? And then from there, we go into doubles and then singles and doubles throughout the course of day one. So thoughts, Melina?
I thought it was 5 matches altogether for day one. So that may not be.
Well, you sent me the flyer, Melina.
Yeah, I sent you that thing, but I could have sworn it had to be 5, but maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of guys like a Darren and obviously Shamat learned the hard way, but there's a lot of guys who know how much strategy plays into a big part of it. This is going to have repercussions for how day 2 is going to go and come down to. So, but I guarantee you, after the last few years, that how they go and put in the players, Jeremy and Shane are going to be on top of who's going to go and play where, and everything will be very specific. Um, Outside of the fans' choice, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to play. I'm looking forward to when they're going to release it. I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow during the press conference, or tomorrow night, or first thing in the morning on Tuesday. But I know, like, for the bettors, the sooner the better that we can go and get the matchups. And I don't see why they wouldn't release tomorrow, now that I think about it. But
you're going to bet on this, Mike? No way.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of betting, what are you hearing out there for the betting line on this, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some guys ask some crazy numbers. I've seen Dennis Hatch go and ask for 5-1 on the money.
I'm getting robbed. I only got 2-1, but I'm a homer, so I took it.
Yeah, I've seen 3-1. I haven't looked at William Hill to see what the bookies over there are handicapping it at, but I would guess it's somewhere around 3.5 to 1, 3-1, something like that. I mean, they're overwhelming favorites, and I think aside from a Shane matchup, every match on paper is going to be favored by the Europeans. And I think only Shane matchups, like a single Shane matchup, will be, I'd guess, even money, or maybe Shane a favorite, depending on who he's up against. But yeah, but you know what? That didn't stop them from going and robbing me for the last couple of years when I'm laying 3-1, and ruining Christmas 2 years straight. So it's sport, man, and anything can happen. Like, Cinderella stories can go and happen, and that's the beauty of the game, of any game. So,
what would you guys say is the appropriate points on the wire? What do you think, Mike Panozzo? What would you go with?
The U.S. does in 7.
Yeah, it's got to be around 3-4. 3-4 has got to be the number for sure. I don't think 7's a moral victory though for the Americans, but I hope they get the 7. I do. Me betting on Europe though, like, I'd be nervous if it gets to day 4, but like, from a fan standpoint, I guess I hope it does go and get to day 4. So it's tough how to go and look at it, but I want to see it be competitive. Like, and we talked about this on Cue It Up. It's like 11-3 wasn't a reflection of how a lot of those matches were very competitive last year.
Yes,
because it was a lot of hill matches. So, history will remember it as 11-3, but man, I remember a lot of those just, being right there.
The match, like last year, I really believe this. Chris Robinson, I want to say he was playing Kachi, and he's running out. This is day 1. And he's going to win the match. And he took a little too much time on, I think it was the 2 ball, and had to use a timeout. You remember this, Panozzo?
Was it Albin or Kachi?
I thought it was Kachi. Yeah, it takes a little bit too long, takes a timeout, and then gets all the way down and overruns a little bit on the 8 ball.
Yeah.
And doesn't have his timeout. And then he goes like a half-hearted kind of bank, kind of safe on the 8, makes it, and then is left with really nothing on the 9 ball. And I'm like, man, if he brought that one home, which he's going to do 98 out of 100 times, I'm sure, that might have changed the whole complexion of it. So it'll be interesting to see if anything pops up on day 1 like that for the U.S. this year, where maybe they seize an opportunity like that, and then it becomes a much closer affair than it was last year.
I think day 1 is where you have to try to do that. 1, you can't get too far behind, and 2, the players are notoriously a little bit shaky, getting used to the table plays a little funny. First day takes them to get used to. If the U.S. can go in there with a little bit of confidence on day 1 and just shoot to win, don't be afraid of anything, fire away, shoot to win, then you got a chance to stay in it for a couple of days.
All right. Well, we're right about the 1 hour mark, guys, so I don't want to take too much longer, but I want to end it with this. I want to go to Mike Panozzo, and I want you to tell me, if you had to pick an MVP for the U.S. and one for Europe, who would you pick?
So is this assuming then that I'm picking for the winning team, because the winning team gets the MVP?
Yes.
Okay. The U.S. wins, the MVP will be Earl.
Really?
Yeah.
No matter. Okay.
I lied. Okay. Because the MVP is picked on straight points. So it's who, I think that I think if the U.S. wins, they would tell you Earl was the MVP. But who would get the most points? It's going to be Shane. And if it's for Europe, who's going to play the most often? Depending on those fans' choices, I would say it's likely to be Jason. I mean, because you're just going by pure numbers, right? I mean, Jason's going to play more than anyone on that team. Shane is going to play more than anybody on the U.S., so they've got the best chance of getting 4 points, 5 points, whatever it is, and that would lock up the MVP.
How come you think Jason plays more than Josh?
Because I think Jason's going to be the picks for the two fans' choices. So that's 2 matches that, that he'll get. At least he'll get at least if he plays in the singles match against Earl. That's one match Josh won't play in. So yeah, I just think that he's going to get the most opportunities.
What do you say, Melina?
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I mean, opportunities is a big thing, and that's why that second fans' choice is going to be pretty massive. I wish there was I don't know if there is, but I don't think there is. I wish there was a bonus for MVP, monetary, because that would be pretty nice, and something to really go and sweat guys for not that they don't try, but just try that much harder. But yeah, I mean, just if Jason goes and gets the fan choices and he goes and delivers for sure, because he's going to have, he'll play more than Clenty will. He'll play more than David will. And it's because of how dynamic Jason is on and off the table. He's got a lot of personality, which American fans want to go and see him fall, and European fans want him to go and carry the flag, and they know they can depend on him because he's been there in big moments. So, and yeah, Earl will be the guy, because I think Earl will definitely, in my mind, definitely go and get the singles, and Earl will be in the doubles for Team USA.
Yeah.
So.
Sure. All right. Well, I don't feel like answering that question. So let's just remind everybody, December 7th through the 10th. What do we got? When's it start, Mike? You said noon Central Time?
Yep.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, noon Central Time. And we also have this map here that shows if you're in the U.S. or North America or Brazil, you can get this on DAZN, whatever you want to call it. You can order your subscription. You can cancel it. But Melina, Mike, and I recommend you do the $100 for the year. There's a lot of good events on there. And then there's a whole bunch of ways you can watch it in other places throughout the world. And you can go to matchroom.com and pull up this map and check it out. So I just want to take a moment and thank Mike Panozzo for joining us from Billiards Digest. Love your insights, Mike, and really appreciate you taking the time to be on Dogging It.
Thanks for having me. It was great to be here. You guys are great, and it's always a pleasant surprise when someone's interested in my input.
Absolutely. We're
There's
very
no better way to
interested.
go and end it than that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for joining. Make sure to go ahead and share this and like the channels, like the pages, and we'll be back to talk to you after day one. See you guys.
See ya.